In 2013, Edward Snowden released through WikiLeaks a large amount of information regarding the NSA and its collusion to the privacy of Americans and other countries. As technology advances, we come to realize that the data we upload onto the web ends up being used for a multitude of different things that one might not be aware about. Hundreds of thousands of bits of data are uploaded on a daily basis, and it is unknown where this data might end up. With the government being involved in our technology, we can question how much privacy we actually have. The NSA is not giving the public the option or notice as to what data they are collecting and who they are collecting it from. If Edward Snowden would have not leaked information linking the government and its association with the data of Americans, it would have still been seen as a conspiracy theory and not a fact that America has surveillance on its citizens. According to an article written about Edward Snowden on Time.com, the document reveals that the NSA is using new software to mine social media, emails, text messages, and other digital communications for images. It seems unclear as to why any government would want to spy on its citizens, as it is wrong. The US government needs to stop exploiting the public's use of the internet for their own gain and surveillance. It is ethically and morally wrong. Facial recognition software has been getting better as years go by. Companies that own data on facial recognition, like Apple and Samsung, don't let users have a very clear understanding as to what it will be used for. According to Snowden, he spoke on facial recognition on his official Twitter account when Apple released their first ever iPhone with facial recognition and stated, "It was a good design, looking surprisingly robust. The bad thing is normalizing facial scanning, and tech can certainly be abused." Facial recognition is starting to be normalized similar to how we normalize fingerprint scanning, having an unknown idea as to what is being used with all this data. One can also be unsure as to what future programs can be developed with the amount of data these companies collect. Not just that, but also, data can often be sold and to whom is unknown. It's established that the NSA is already purchasing data from third-party companies. So who's not to say that they might be interested in buying something like the data of facial recognition from companies to use in something ethically wrong? Normalizing it can also mean that once the government starts doing it to the public, it will be something we might not question. Although it's something that definitely needs to be addressed before it's too late. Now I say this because according to the New York Times, the National Security Agency is harvesting huge numbers of images of people from communications that it intercepts through its global surveillance operations for use in sophisticated facial recognition programs, according to top secret documents. Seemingly, this is an article that was published in 2014, visualizing that the topic of facial recognition in our government has been at play for quite some time now. On the point of how the government might use it, law enforcement agencies could develop computers to log the faces of American citizens and cross-references those digital images to other computer databases, leaving citizens in a world where they are constantly being observed. With the amount of traffic the internet has, it is quite simple to start putting information together and making use of the data people are uploading onto the web, as this is what the NSA is doing. In 2015, the USA Freedom Act was passed and had the intention to stop the NSA from collecting phone data in bulk from companies like AT&T. Although that is not happening, it still has not stopped them from observing the public. According to an academic journal written by Carolyn Craig, it states, "Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board found no evidence that bulk collection of records made a difference in the fight against terrorism." America seems that they want to have security on the US, and interfering data from its public seems to be not useful to fight terrorism. So what is it useful for? Some amount of data collected by the NSA ended up being used for a program called X-Keyscore. What this program does is lets you search through hundreds of thousands of emails, text messages, and other things people have sent. Sebastian Anthony writes in an article about X-Keyscore and states, X-Keyscore itself consists of 700 servers running Linux, situated at 150 different sites around the world, which are constantly scanning and indexing intelligence acquired by NSA's data gathering tools. This is what I find most disturbing, since they are already gathering America's data. They might be gathering the data of other countries as well. Recognize that the X-Keyscore has been around for a while, so if anything, it's been developed to a greater extent nowadays. Sebastian Anthony continues to clarify that to use the X-Keyscore system, an NSA analyst taps in a few search parameters, a justification, no formal warrant is required, and presses enter. X-Keyscore can be indexed by email or IP address, name, telephone number, word, language, or even the type of web browser. Although the NSA is watching our every move, they don't need a search warrant or any kind of permission to keep an eye on the public. For this to happen, we just don't have any laws to prevent it from happening. So if it's not the law, the government takes it upon themselves to do what they please. Most of the data that is flowing through the internet is encrypted. This is one of the reasons the NSA is so powerful, to where they are decrypting the data that we are sending through the internet. An article published by Elsevier Ltd addresses that NSA has mounted a 10-year program named Bull Run to attack encryption, a program that has current annual budget of over $250 million, more than 10 times of that of Prism or X-Keyscore. Encryptions are encrypted because they clearly contain information that shouldn't be decrypted, unless it's for a good cause. For example, the Enigma machine used to decrypt writing from the Germans were using in World War II, so we could have an advantage against them. Here the government is decrypting our own information for the sole purpose to have power over the people. In World War II, the Germans were a threat. Today, it seems more like the threat that we have is the government and not the public. Let's try to put the idea of mass surveillance in theories of making it morally right or wrong. If we look at it from a Kantianism point of view, we can see that the intentions of the government are clearly bad. If they were good, they wouldn't be hiding what they are doing. Although it's the government's duty to protect us, it is not their duty to have surveillance on our lives, since it's an invasion of privacy. This action of surveillance to the public is not done from duty, so it has no moral worth. If we try to put it in a universal law, we can see that we don't want to invade people's privacy because we don't want our privacy to be invaded either. Here, the privacy of the government can be invaded. When it is, as Edward Snowden did, they did not like it and will treat you like a threat. Now, if we see it from a utilitarianism point of view, we want to talk about the consequences that the mass surveillance to the public brings. As this is pretty broad, we can put it on both sides of it being morally right and wrong. If the surveillance of the public ends with the public fearing it, then it's a wrong thing to do. But if the consequences of it are good and people enjoy being watched, then it's a good thing. One might say that not many people like being watched, so it makes it a morally wrong thing to do. If this continues, it's easy to infer how this could create a chilling effect and start seeing a loss in our freedoms. How we are aware now that the NSA is tapping into our social media, we might start speaking or posting less. If not, we might not want to speak out to our full extent. It seems that privacy is something that is not being cared for on the internet. Companies track you, but so does the government. You just choose to be tracked by these companies and don't have a choice to be tracked or not to be tracked by the government. And that is the issue. It's more of a problem of consent, where we give consent to companies like Apple to take our data, and the government just decrypts our data and also keeps it. This is also happening because of our laws and how misinterpreted they can get. As to internet privacy, we are starting to see it disappear. Having surveillance on its citizens only gives the government more power and control, leaving the public with less power than they already have.